Good morning, Standard 9. Today we are here with the lecture 1 of your beehive. And the name of the chapter that we are going to do is A Truly Beautiful Mind. Now, A Truly Beautiful Mind is a short biography on the famous scientist, physicist Albert Einstein. Now, in this chapter, we are told that he possessed a beautiful mind. Now, what do you mean when you say a truly beautiful mind? Is that he was not only a great scientist, but he was also a great humanitarian. He propagated, he advocated peace, world peace. He was against violence. He advocated non-violence. So therefore, we can say that he was a possessor of a beautiful mind. He is considered to be a genius. Now, who is a genius, my dear students? A genius, like Albert Einstein, when he was born, there were no signs that he is going to be a great scientist, a genius later on. Okay, so there are no signs or there are no, indication that one is going to be a great scientist or a great person. Albert Einstein, in fact, when he was born, he did not talk for 2 long years. He was a late talker. But now we can see who doesn't know Albert Einstein. So let us read the chapter and find out more about Albert Einstein. Okay, take out your textbooks, children, and keep a pencil with you. Albert Einstein was born on 14 March 1879 in the German city of Ulm, without any indication that he was destined for greatness. So as I told you, now he was born on 14th March 1879. He was a Jewish, and he was, when he was born, there were no indication, no signs that one day he is going to be a great man. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. To her, his head seemed much too large. Now, this mother of Albert Einstein, Pauline, she on the contrary, she felt that he was a very ordinary boy and he was not going to do anything in his life, and moreover, his head was much larger than an ordinary child must have. So on the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. Now, who is a freak? A freak, this is a word used disapprovingly to talk about a person who is unusual. Okay? So to her, his head seemed much too large. So why she thought that Albert was a freak? Because of the unusual size of his head. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. When he finally did, he learned to speak. He uttered everything twice. Now, for 2.5 years, he did not talk. And even if when he started talking, he used to repeat the words twice. Twice he used to say, suppose, I want water, I want water. So twice he used to say the words. And Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. Now there is one, anecdote that Einstein, once he was having dinner with his parents, and then what happened? All of a sudden, he spoke something. And what is it? The soup is hot. The soup is hot. Then the parents were surprised that you never talk. Then he said, what did he reply? Because up to now, everything was in order. So I did not speak, but now everything is not in order. So these are little anecdotes I will keep sharing with you while doing this chapter. So, and at school, his friends used to call him Brother Boring because he was a very calm and quiet child, and seldom he used to play with his friends. So that is why he got the name Brother Boring. Brother Boring. This name was given to him by his, the friends used to tease him. Brother Boring. So the youngster played by himself much of the time. So he was a laughing stock among his classmates, and that is why, and they used to tease him by calling him brother boring. So this child, as a child, he used to play all alone by himself. He especially loved mechanical toys. Looking at his newborn sister Maja, he is said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" He loved mechanical toys, and even his newborn sister, her name was Maja, and when he saw this baby, he said, "Where are her wheels?" So this shows that he was a very simple child, and then he loved toys so much he considered his sister also a toy. A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter because he will never make a success at anything. Now see, headmaster also, I told you now, there were no signs, no indications that he is going to be a genius. He was very, he was a late talker, he was not doing good at school, and he was arguing with his teachers. So the headmaster finally said, "Don't worry about your child, whichever field he takes, he is not going to be a success. He is going to fail." So this was a very negative statement given by the headmaster. And Einstein, he proved him wrong. He will never make a success at anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining his skill throughout his life. Now, he was not interested in studies. Then his mother requested him, pleaded that you must learn music. So when he heard, it is said when he heard Mozart for the first time, he fell in love with music. And he also later on said that playing violin, he used to play violin, he was an amateur violinist, and he told once that, his discovery of theory of relativity, in discovering the theory of relativity, playing violin or music played a vital role. This statement was given by him. So he was in love with music, and that was only because of his mother, Pauline, who asked her to practice or learn violin. So Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6. And it is said that whenever he was upset, whenever he was disturbed, once when he was staying in a rented house, the landlady, she used to fight every day, he used to feel very disturbed. Then what he used to do, he used to play violin to relax, to feel relaxed. So he began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist. Now, amateur, what do you mean by amateur? Doing something for personal enjoyment rather than a profession. A gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He went to high school in Munich, where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old, and scored good marks in almost every subject. So at school also, he was doing well. He was a good student. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. I told you that he had that streak of rebellion in him. So he was doing well, but then he did not like the strict rules and regulations. Regimentation means strict rules and regulations of the school. He did not like. He thought that, there is, the teaching method is entirely wrong. That is not the way to teach, because he felt that spirit of learning is creativity. The spirit of learning is to be creative. Whereas, the school was not supporting people, the students who were creative. So there was no creativity, but there was only rote learning. And Albert Einstein disliked or disapproved rote learning. So that is why he was always in rebellion, or he was always, used to have arguments, especially with his history teacher. He did not believe in memorizing dates. He said that it is useless to memorize dates. Rather, we should concentrate or focus on why such and such incident happened, and in future we should do something that such and such incident or some war or anything like that should be stopped. How to stop those things again from reoccurring. So he said like that, and memorizing dates is useless, he said to his history teacher, because of which he was thrown out of the class once. So at the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled that he left the school for good. Stifled means he felt very suffocating at school. The strict regimentation, the strict rules and regulations, the rote learning method, he did not like this, and that is why he left school at the age of 15. The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was more liberal than Munich. So his parents had moved to another place, and he was staying with his relatives, but then he asked his parents that he wanted to live in Switzerland, and he felt that Switzerland was more liberal than Munich, where he was staying. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics, and after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appealed to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. Okay, so Einstein was highly gifted in maths. I told you in the introduction also, at the age of 12, Einstein, he taught himself algebra and the geometry, Euclidean geometry. He taught himself at the age of 12 in one summer. So definitely he is a genius. And he also discovered the Pythagoras theorem. Understood at the age of 12. Can you imagine the age of 12? So he was really a genius. So he was highly gifted in mathematics and physics, and decided to study at University of Zurich. But science was not, don't think that he was a dry person. He was only interested in science and physics and formulas. No, he was not also boring, as his friends used to call him, brother boring. Now he thing that appealed to the dashing means handsome, dashing young man with the walrus mustache. Walrus means the drooping mustache, somewhat like this. Okay, this type of mustache he had. Don't mind my drawing, okay, just to make you understand. So this is called walrus mustache. The drooping mustache he had, and that that hair by which Einstein is known, his hairstyle. Anyway, so let us see what are the other fields in which Einstein is interested in. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Mileva Marek, whom he found to be a clever creature. So he took interest in his classmate, okay, a fellow student, and her name is Mileva Marek, and he found her to be a clever creature. So average did not attract Einstein. She was also a clever girl. This young Serb means a person who belonged to Siberia. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. So those days women were not given degrees, but Zurich was the only place where women were given degrees. They were supposed to go to colleges and universities. Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines, those people in his family at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. So Einstein saw in her an ally against the Philistines. Now Philistines is a very derogatory term for the people who don't like music, literature, art. Okay, so most of the people were like that, but this girl, she was an exception. Those people, letters survive in which the couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science with tenderness. So they exchanged love letters, and there was, their love letter was like mixing science with love. So one example is given: how happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion. So this is how their love letters used to be. Okay, so in 1900, at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. So in 1900, what do you see? His life is not a bed of roses. He too had his own struggles. So at the age of, after graduation, he was jobless. Okay, he spent almost 2 frustrating years searching for a teaching job. Understood? So at the age of 21, Albert Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. So where he got a job? In the as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. So what is a patent office? A patent is a document which gives the rights of an invention to an inventor. So Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. So he was doing job there. People used to submit their letters, their discoveries there. And this man, he was doing his own work. He was secretly developing his own ideas. He said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. And he was a very humorous man also, and he used to jokingly call his desk drawer what? Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Now, one of the famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Now in 1905, he worked on the special theory of relativity. And what did he say? The time and distance are not absolute. Okay. And indeed, now what do you mean by absolute? Absolute means it's not in relation to anything else. Indeed, 2 perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. Now, what did he say prove? He said that if there are 2 watches, okay, if there are 2 watches and they start at different speeds, okay, and they will return, when they will return, the 2 watches will not give the same time. That is what he said through his theory of relativity. And from this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. And then he discovered the famous theory of E is equal to mc square. E stands for energy, and m for mass, and c for speed of light. Okay, so while Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. So here he was, solving the difficult problems. He was busy discovering. He was busy with his, special theory of relativity. But his personal life was disturbed, was falling or failing. His private life was unraveling. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies. So, he was in love with Mileva. He wanted to marry her, but his mother was against it. Mother did not like the match. Why? She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him because of the age difference. Einstein was younger than Mileva, or Mileva was, elder than this Einstein. So that is why his mother thought that it's not a good match. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence, and she is a book like you. And Mileva was, I told you, she was also very intelligent, a clever girl. So mother did not like that. Mother said that, her notions were like women should be less intelligent than men. She is a book like you, his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off, and then Einstein postponed the wedding because his mother did not like it. But then the pair finally married in January 1903. So in spite of the mother, not giving her consent in the marriage, Einstein married Mileva in 1903 and had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. So mothers are always right, isn't it? So this marriage did not go or did not turn to be a success because Mileva meanwhile was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. She became, it is said that he had given many conditions to Mileva that you have to prepare my bed, you have to, the food, the 3 meals should be given on time. So all these conditions he had kept, and finally the marriage was, got faltered. But a few years later the marriage faltered. Mileva meanwhile was losing her intellectual ambition. We have seen how clever she was, how intelligent she was, but then she was losing all these things. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1919. So in 1919 they separated. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Einstein remarried his cousin, his maternal cousin Elsa, and she had helped him when he was in school with the geography lessons. Okay, then in the second lecture I'll explain the remaining part of this chapter. Thank you, children.